Hundreds of students across the metro area walked out of class today, a week after two students were shot at Evergreen High School. Hundreds of students saying they don't feel safe in their schools, many of them calling for gun control legislation that they hope might prevent the next school shooting. The demonstrations were organized by the group Students Demand Action. That's an offshoot of the gun violence prevention group Moms Demand Action. This morning, hundreds of students rallied at the state capitol, then marched through downtown Denver. Students also marched out of Columbine High School, the site of Colorado's deadliest school shooting 26 years ago. And the students from Evergreen High School, still processing the trauma of the shooting on their own school campus, joined nearby Conifer High School students for a walkout this afternoon. Evergreen students could not walk out of their own classes because they're canceled for at least the rest of the week as the investigation on their campus continues. The two students shot remain in the hospital. 18-year-old Matthew Silverstone is in critical condition. His family put out a statement today saying that doctors are telling them that Matthew will likely require lifelong full-time care. The family says they have heard from witnesses that Matthew was able to get out a warning to his fellow students during the attack. They said they want everyone to know that Matthew was someone full of, quote, so much life, so much love. We still do not know the name of the other shooting victim. As of Monday, that student was still in serious condition at Children's Hospital. The 16-year-old shooter killed himself after being confronted by law enforcement on the scene. His exact motives are still under investigation, but it did not take investigators long to discover that this teenager had become radicalized online. For months, the shooter had been active on websites dedicated to violence and mass shooters. The Anti-Defamation League tracked months of his troubling posts and then turned them over to the FBI, but they didn't know his real name or his location, just his online username. The FBI says they couldn't tie the shooter to his online posts until after the shooting when they searched his home and computer. Today, Democratic Congressman Joe Neguse from Colorado questioned FBI Director Kash Patel directly about this investigation. And Neguse asked why it's so hard for the FBI to find these online trails before the act of violence.
Can you provide us some clarity on what were the impediments to finding, the account user, and maybe describe in greater detail the FBI's work in that regard?
Proactively going out onto these social media platforms, which are so large, is our biggest impediment. Because while the FBI has so many people and the police are great at doing it, there's just too many platforms to cover down on.
Kash Patel says his office supports legislation that protects digital service providers who proactively share personal identifying information like IP addresses with those investigators. Job security for a Democrat and Colorado's congressional delegation usually means winning one election, and then you're set for life, or as long as you want the seat, because Colorado's Democrats rarely get primaried by other Democrats. We looked and we can't find a successful primary challenge to a Democrat in our congressional delegation in more than 50 years. But today, CU Regent Wanda James announced that she is primarying Colorado's longest-serving member of Congress, Diana DeGette. The state's Democratic Party promised our Marshall Zellinger they will stay neutral and not play favorites.
Of all of Colorado's 8 congressional districts, the first, Denver, might be the safest. Congresswoman Diana DeGette has represented the 1st in Congress since 1997.
I've gotten damn near zero pushback from anybody in the party.
Today, CU Regent Wanda James announced her primary challenge against DeGette. James challenging DeGette makes this the 7th time since 2000 that a Democratic incumbent is facing a challenger for Congress. Republicans have seen a candidate challenge an incumbent 13 times since 2000. Only one primary challenger won. Lauren Boebert defeated then-Congressman Scott Tipton in the 3rd Congressional District in 2020. DeGette has faced 4 other primaries while a congresswoman, 2022, 2018, 2016, and 2002. She briefly faced a challenge in 2020, but that candidate dropped out before the election. DeGette handily won all of those primaries.
In an open race, James would have a really strong chance. And she may have a stronger chance than the last couple folks that we've seen in 2022 and 2018 that, got 20, 25% of the vote.
MSU Denver political science professor Robert Preuss noted that Republicans in office have had a more tenuous time with primaries because the top Republican gets involved.
Democrats don't have a Donald Trump. There's no equivalent to someone who can control a block of voters within that primary and really just get their way.
Our party has a neutrality policy that I strongly believe in that applies to incumbents as well. We cannot both be the referee and the player on the field.
As Colorado Democratic Party Chair Shad Murib pointed to the party's neutrality policy: no endorsements, financial contributions, volunteering, or employment on behalf of any candidate.
My responsibility over the primary season is to build as strong an infrastructure as possible to make sure that everyone has a fair chance to compete.
The most high-profile Democratic primary in recent memory would be 2010. Former House Speaker Andrew Romanoff challenged appointed Senator Michael Bennet. Most of the Republican incumbent primaries have happened in Colorado Springs in the 5th Congressional District, but only Boebert has won a primary against an incumbent for Congress in this century.
A lot of political observers think that Scott Tipton didn't take Lauren Boebert very seriously, and then he got taken out. I think Diana DeGette will take Wanda James seriously. But this is unlike a lot of the Democratic primary challenges you see around the country, where it's a more centrist Dem that's being primaried from the left. James is progressive, but so is DeGette. She doesn't leave a lot of room to her left flank.
I guess it's about what can you prove that you've done, and that's something that's always come up against DeGette. Like, it's quietly been in office for 30 years. But yeah, if there is any room to the left of DeGette, it could be Wanda James. And if that's what Denver voters are shifting towards, this will be as close as we've seen.
All right, we will be watching. Marshall Zellinger, thank you. ABC is pulling Jimmy Kimmel's late night show off the air indefinitely after pressure from President Trump's appointee leading the FCC, as well as the local broadcast company Nexstar. We should note, Nexstar is currently seeking approval from the FCC to acquire the parent company of 9 News. Kimmel recently speculated on air that the man who killed MAGA activist Charlie Kirk could have been on the far right himself. Today, FCC Chairman Brendan Carr went on a MAGA influencer's podcast and threatened action against ABC's local affiliate licenses. Nexstar, one of the largest owners of TV stations in the country, announced later today it would stop airing Kimmel's show for the foreseeable future. Shortly after that, ABC announced it is taking Kimmel off the air for the time being. Chairman Carr then thanked Nexstar for what Carr himself acknowledged could be an unprecedented decision. Nexstar is currently seeking FCC approval for the acquisition of Tegna, which owns 9 News. Nexstar already owns Fox 31 here in Denver. The CEO of Nexstar has said that multiple stations in the same city will be combined. So there are doctors, nurses, dentists, other trained medical professionals who are ready and willing to serve our community, but they can't because they earned their credentials outside the U.S. That's why this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports the Spring Institute's Colorado Welcome Back program. That nonprofit's program helps internationally trained healthcare professionals get relicensed here so that they can fill gaps in Colorado's workforce. They've assisted doctors, dentists, pharmacists, and nurses put their skills to use and to bring their language skills into Colorado's healthcare facilities where they're so needed. The Welcome Back program offers individual career coaching, help navigating the sometimes confusing process of re-credentialing, and they offer scholarships to help pay for prep courses and board exams. There is nothing wrong with any honest work, but this program allows people who are currently, say, driving rideshare to go back into the world of medicine next year. That's a win for them. It's a win for Colorado. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get that link to donate. Your 5 years worth of microgiving raising $16 million proves how $5 donations add up, and I will never ask you to give to a cause that I don't personally support myself. So as always, I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us going. We are so close to 6,000 of you signing up to make a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. You put in your info once. Each month, your donations automatically split among all the nonprofits we feature, and you don't get a million emails and pieces of snail mail. It means that we've started our recent campaigns with $35,000 worth of your giving. The top Republican in Colorado State House quit her job this week. She joins me to talk about her reasons.
I always hoped that I would end as a statesman. And now it's more about being social media famous is what it feels like for a lot of people.
And Coloradans living on the streets are sharing their stories through their own lens. That's next. Our next conversation tonight is with Rose Pugliese. Pugliese just resigned on Monday as the leader of the Republican minority in the Colorado House. She called the legislature toxic and said that her family just needs her more right now. I asked her about the divide that I see in politics between people of both parties who want to govern and those who want to become famous for confrontation.
Oh, absolutely. And I've got 2 points on that. You know, when I call it growing up in politics, when I was a county commissioner working on legislation, it used to be that our legislators strived to be statesmen, right? I mean, you wanted your legacy to be that I was a statesman. I knew, if I ever went to legislature, I always hoped that I would end as a statesman. And now it's more about being social media famous, is what it feels like for a lot of people.
Had you made the decision that you were going to leave before last week, in the violence of last week, the political assassination of Charlie Kirk, the school shooting in Evergreen? I know you're a mom of kids, raising them on your own. Had you made that decision before the violence of last week?
Not the resignation part necessarily. I have struggled in the legislature. If you read my resignation letter, and I encourage people to do, that was truth, right? I think this is the right decision for me and my family. And I really need to, even before, the Charlie Kirk assassination and the school shootings, and my kids were afraid, and I just felt like I needed to be there for them.
To the extent that you feel comfortable sharing, did their reaction to learning about your decision reinforce it for you?
There might have been a lot of jumping up and down in my kitchen, yes.
For folks who are concerned about how we find an off-ramp from political violence, how we convince people to talk to each other, argue with each other, right? Get mad at each other, but at the end of the day, understand that violence should just be out of the question when we talk about American politics. What advice would you offer?
I do believe that nonviolent civil discourse really needs to be a part of who we are and what we do. I think that the people of Colorado are expecting us to bring forward solutions. I really do hope that we are able to come to a place where we can have those hard conversations and disagree about the policy and maybe find some middle ground and maybe not. But I think having those conversations without being afraid is really important.
Rose Pugliese, I appreciate your time. Appreciate you constructively engaging with journalists over the years in your role in elected office. All the best to you and your family.
Thank you so much.
And it's a busy weather day for us here across southeastern Colorado. Severe thunderstorm watch. Colorado Springs on south and east. We just had a pretty nasty storm roll through downtown Colorado Springs along and north of the Palmer Divide. Generally speaking, we've been on the quieter side, but Colorado Springs, again, a stronger storm. Southeastern El Paso County, severe thunderstorm warning for the next few minutes for that. Further north here in the Denver area, just a few showers, lighter sprinkles on the south and west sides of town. A little downpour out by Red Rocks. Once again, going to be a little bit stormy if you're heading out that way, and snow at or above pass level. So as we head over the next few hours, it will stay a bit unsettled for us. So if you're going to the Rockies game or you go into Red Rocks this evening, bring the rain jacket with you. You will need it. You get up at or above pass level, 11,000 feet. We'll get some snow. And Colorado Springs, a stormy evening ahead for us along and south of the Palmer Divide. 7-day forecast. We head over the next few days. We're back into the 80s for us this weekend.
This Constitution Day, we will hear a lot about the wisdom of America's founders, the courage of America's founders, and no doubt they had both. I mean, they told a king to shove it, after all, and they were building a roadmap for a young nation that could have failed as easily as it succeeded. But at this moment in American history, when our country's pulling apart at the seams, it seems, it would be wise of us to examine and to celebrate two other values exemplified by the founders: humility and compromise. I think of the words of Ben Franklin, oldest signer of the Constitution. At 81, in poor health, he had been carried into their hot summertime debate sessions in a chair. But on the day the Constitution was signed, Ben Franklin stood, and he handed off his written speech to be read aloud by a younger man with a stronger voice. "I agree to this Constitution with all its faults," he said, Franklin was promising to sign his name to what he believed to be a flawed document, but a good compromise. Not perfect, but as the document itself read, in order to form a more perfect union. Franklin signed the Constitution because he knew that what divided them in that room was nothing compared to the threats from outside their union. I think it will astonish our enemies, he wrote. Their enemies, Ben Franklin knew, were not other Americans. Franklin told his fellow framers that of his doubts and of his disagreements, I sacrifice to the public good. And he encouraged them all to leave the room united behind their compromise. Franklin closed with an appeal to his colleagues' humility. He asked them to doubt a little. Franklin had come to see that questioning his own views or even changing his mind was a sign of strength, not weakness. For having lived long, he said, I have experienced many instances of being obliged by better information or fuller consideration to change opinions even on important subjects. Today, Americans who seek to follow in the footsteps of the founders need not lead a revolution, just do something that seems revolutionary in our time. Show some humility and seek compromise.
Being able to share their story is just as powerful.
People living on the streets of Denver get 4 walls to display their stories. Next. Each of us views the world through our own lens. A new photo exhibit gives our neighbors who are homeless a way to share life through their lens.
Something that everybody shares. Everybody has photos. Everybody uses photos. Everybody likes different things about different photos. You know, the people that are going through these struggles, the artists that are doing these pictures, they're normal. They're just like everybody else. Well, my name is Myra Nagy, and my role is with Elevating Denver as an artist mentor. The name of the project is Life on the Edge. We talk to the unhoused and the people going through these struggles, and we ask them, you know, how does it feel going through different struggles in the way you're living your life right now, and can you give me examples of that in the form of a picture? There was one of a closet where someone was going through the chaos in their mind. I know that this is what it feels like to me. When you're on the street, you're sleeping in a car, you're sleeping in a tent, or wherever you're sleeping, you want to find a safe place to sleep. Trees look like stability or strength, but by itself it might look like I'm just lonely, but yet I'm still strong. So that was a few of the pictures that was there. Well, I used to be unhoused. I was unhoused for, I don't know how many years. I mean, a lot of people don't get to understand what it feels like to be unhoused. So when other people are seeing the unhoused, and in this exhibition they can see in a struggle, allowing other people to see that emotion in a photo, because it's hard to express it. They have to have compassion and realize that life isn't as simple as it looks. So don't judge people based on what you see.
Life on the Edge is on display. It's free to check it out tomorrow night, 5 to 7 at Cameron United Methodist Church in Denver. Whole lot of feedback tonight. We'll read a bit next. The person serving you your next meal or driving your next rideshare might actually be a doctor. I want to be clear, there is dignity and worth in all of those jobs, but for the medical professionals frustrated by their inability to practice medicine in Colorado because they got their degree overseas, there's an answer. Spring Institute's Welcome Back program helps those professionals get recertified to practice here in Colorado. Doctors, nurses, dentists, pharmacists. The Spring Institute helps them with coaching and recertification guidance, even scholarships if it's needed, so that they can get back to doing the jobs they were trained to do and help fill workforce gaps in our state. Everybody wins. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to join me in donating. Linda writes in to say, would you have had that interview if Rose Pugliese was a Republican? Your reporting is so Democratic. Linda, she is a Republican. I think we said that. Yeah, she's the Republican leader. Carol says, thanks to the team. You always present news stories in an informed and balanced way. She says, these days, that's a rare, rare situation.